हेलो दोस्तों, बिगिनर्स पॉइंट में आपका स्वागत है। और अभी हम कर रहे हैं इकोनॉमिक्स 10th क्लास की। ठीक है। इससे पहले 9th क्लास की कंप्लीट कर चुके हैं। नहीं देखी तो पुरानी वीडियोस में जाकर देख लेना, प्लेलिस्ट बना के रख रखी है। ठीक। अभी इससे पहले का पढ़ लिया है तो वैरायटी ऑफ क्रेडिट अरेंजमेंट पढ़ेंगे। एग्जाम्पल ऑफ विलेज। रोहित एंड रंजन had finished reading about the terms of credit in class. They were eager to know the various credit arrangements that exist in their area. Who were the people who provided credit? Who were the borrowers? What were the terms of credit? They decided to talk to some people in their village. Read what they record. 15th November 2019. We head directly for the fields where most farmers and laborers would be working at this time of the day. The fields are planted with potato crops. We first meet Shyamal a small farmer in Sonpur, a village. Shyamal tells us that every session he needs loans for cultivation on his 1.5 acre of land. Till a few years back, he would borrow money from the village moneylender at an interest rate of 5% per month, 60% per annum. For the last few years, Shyamal has been borrowing from an agricultural trader in the village at an interest rate of 3% per month. At the beginning of the cropping season, the trader supplies the farm inputs on credit, which is to be repaid when the crops are ready for harvest. Besides the interest charge on the loan, the trader also makes the farmers promise to sell the crop to him. This way, the trader can ensure that the money is repaid promptly. Also, since the crop prices are low after the harvest, the trader is able to make a profit from buying the crop at a low price from the farmers and then selling it later when the price has risen. ट्रेडर क्या काम करते हैं? ट्रेडर का काम करते हैं, इन किसानों से सस्ते में ले लेते हैं। आलू वगैरह सस्ते में लेते हैं, जब सीज़न नहीं होती तब उस चीज़ को महंगा करके बेच देते हैं। We next meet Arun, who is supervising the work of one farm laborer. Arun has 7 acres of land. He is one of the few persons in Sonpur to receive bank loan for cultivation. The interest rate on the loan is 8.5% per annum and can be repaid anytime in the next 3 years. Arun plans to repay the loan after harvest by selling a part of the crop. He then intends to store the rest of the potatoes in a cold storage and apply for a fresh loan from the bank against the cold storage receipt. The bank offers this facility to farmers who have taken crop loan from them. Rama is working in a neighboring field. She works as an agricultural laborer. There are several months in the year then when Rama has no work and needs credit to meet the daily expenses. Expenses on sudden like illness or functions in the family are also met through loans. Rama has to depend on her employer, a medium land owner in Sonpur, for credit. The landowner charges an interest rate of 5% per month. Rama repays the money by working for the landowner. Most of the time, Rama has to take a fresh loan before the previous loan has been repaid. At present, she owes the landowner rupees 5,000. Though the landowner doesn't treat her well, she continues to work for him since she get loans from him when in need. Rama tells us that the only source of credit for the landless people in Sonpur are the landowner employers. Loans for cooperatives. Besides banks, the other major source of cheap credit in rural area are the cooperative society or cooperatives. Members of a cooperative pool their resources for cooperation in certain areas. There are several types of cooperative possible, such as farmers cooperatives, weavers cooperatives, industrial workers cooperatives, etc. Krishak cooperative functions in a village not very far away from Sonpur. It has 1,300 farmers has a members. It accepts deposits from its members. With these deposits as collateral, the cooperative has obtained a large loan from the bank. These funds are used to provide loan to members. Once these loans are prepaid, another round of lending can take place. Krishak Cooperative provides loans for the purchase of agricultural implements, loans for cultivation and agricultural trade, fisheries loans, loans for construction of house, and for a variety of other expenses. Formal sector credit in India. Sources of credit in rural India 2019. 57 51% कौन है कमर्शियल बैंक्स, उसके बाद कोऑपरेटिव बैंक्स एंड सोसाइटी 10%, अदर फॉर्मल एजेंसीज 5%, लैंडलॉर्ड्स 1%, मनी लेंडर्स 23%, relatives and friends 7%, other informal agencies 3%. We have seen in the above example that people obtain loans from various sources. The various types of loans can be conventionally grouped as formal sector loans and informal sector loans. Among the former are loans from banks and cooperatives. The informal lenders include money lenders, traders, employers, relatives, and friends, etc. In Graph 1, you can see the various sources of credit to rural households in India. Is more credit coming from the formal sector or the informal sector? The Reserve Bank of India supervises the functioning of formal sources of loans. For instance, we have seen that the banks maintain a minimum cash balance out of the deposits they receive. The RBI monitors the bank is in actually maintaining cash balance. Similarly, the RBI sees that the banks give loans not just to profit-making business and traders, but also to small cultivators, small-scale industries, to small borrowers, etc. Periodically, banks have to submit information to the RBI on how much they are lending, to whom, at what interest rate, etc. There is no organization which supervises the credit activities of lenders in the informal sector. They can lend at whatever interest rate they, but why should a bank want us to have a higher income? यहाँ पे क्या है इंटरेस्ट रेट दे choose there is no one to stop them from using unfair means to get their money back. Compared to the formal lenders, most of the informal lenders charge a much higher interest on loans. Thus, the cost to the borrower of informal loans is much higher. Higher cost of borrowing means a larger part of the earnings of the borrowers is used to repay the loan. Hence, borrowers have less income left for themselves, as we saw for Shyamal in Sonpur. In certain cases, the high interest rate for borrowing can mean that the amount to be repaid is greater than the income of the borrower. This could lead to increasing debt, as we saw for Rama in Sonpur and debt trap. डेब्ट ट्रैप मतलब कि लोन ट्रैप में एक तरीके से फंस जाते हैं, ब्याज देते रहते हैं लेकिन कभी भी पूरा ख़त्म नहीं होता. ऑल्सो पीपल हु माइट विश टू स्टार्ट एन एंटरप्राइज बाय बोरोइंग may not do so because of high cost of borrowing. For these reasons, banks and cooperative societies need to lend more. This would lead to higher incomes, and many people could then borrow cheaply for a variety of needs. They could grow crops, do business, set up small scale industries, etc. They could set up new industries or trade in goods. Cheap and affordable credit is crucial for the country's development. Formal and informal credit, who gets what? Graph second shows the importance of formal and informal sources of credit for people in urban areas. The people are divided into four groups, from poor to rich, as shown in the figure. You can see that 54% of the loans taken by poor households in the urban areas are from informal sources. Compare this with a rich urban household. What do you find? Only 17% of their loans are from informal sources, while 83% are from formal sources. A similar pattern is also found in rural areas. The rich households are availing cheap credit from formal lenders, whereas the poor households have to pay a large amount for borrowing. What does all this suggest? First, the formal sector still meets only about half of the total credit needs of the rural people. The remaining credit needs are met from informal source informal sources. Graph number 2 of all the loans taken by urban households, what percentage was formal and what percentage of informal. Percentage of formal informal का ये है. Blue percent of loans from the formal sector. फॉर्मल सेक्टर से पुअर हाउस होल्ड कितना परसेंट लेते हैं 46% और इनफॉर्मल से 54%. हाउस होल्ड विद अ न्यू फ्यू एसेट्स 50 63 और 38. वेल ऑफ हाउस होल्ड 73 और 27. रिच हाउस होल्ड 83 और 17%. Most loans from informal lenders carry a very high interest rate and do little to increase the income of the borrowers. Thus, it is necessary that banks and cooperative increase their lending, particularly in the rural areas, so that the dependence of informal sources of credit reduce. Secondly, while formal sector loans need to expand, it is also necessary that everyone receives these loans. At present, it is the richer households who receive formal credit, whereas the poor have to depend on the informal sources. It is important that the formal credit is distributed more equally so that the poor can benefit from the cheaper loan. Do you think a bank will give me a loan? इसने आदमी ने ये पूछा है, मैं काम कर रहा हूँ, मुझे क्या लोन मिल जाएगा? सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स फॉर द पुअर. In the previous section, we have seen that poor households are still dependent on informal sources of credit. Why is it so? Banks are not present everywhere in rural India. Even when they are present, getting a loan from a bank is much more difficult than taking a loan from informal sources. As we saw for Megha, bank loans require proper documents and collateral. Absence of collateral is one of the major reasons which prevents the poor from getting bank loans. Informal lenders such as money lenders, on the other hand, know the borrowers personally and hence are often willing to give a loan without collateral. The borrowers can, if necessary, approach the money lenders even without repaying their earlier loans. However, the moneylenders charge very high rates of interest, keep no records of the transactions, and harass the poor borrowers. In recent years, people have tried out some newer ways of providing loans to the poor. The idea is to organize rural poor, in particular women, into small self-help group (SHG) and pool collect their savings. A typical SHG self-help groups has 15 to 20 members, usually belonging to one neighborhood, who meet and save regularly. Saving per member varies from rupees 25 to 100 or more, depending on the ability of the people to save. Members can take small loans from the group itself to meet their needs. The group charges interest on these loans, but this is still less than what the money lenders charge. After a year or two, if the group is regular in savings, it becomes eligible for availing loan from the bank. Loan is sectioned in the name of the group and is meant to create self-employment opportunities for the members. For instance, small loans are provided to the members for releasing mortgaged land for meeting working capital needs. Example: buying seeds, fertilizers, raw materials like bamboo and cloth, for housing materials, for acquiring assets like sewing machine, handlooms, cattle, etc. Most of the important decisions regarding the savings and loan activities are taken by the group members. The group decides as regards the loan to be granted, the purpose, amount, interest to be charged, paid repayment schedule, etc. Also, it is the group which is responsible for the repayment of the loan. Any case of non-repayment of loan by any one member is followed up seriously by other members in the group. Because of this feature, banks are willing to lend to the poor women when organized in SHG, even though even though they have no collateral as such. Thus, the SSG help borrowers overcome the problem of lack of collateral. They can get timely loans for a variety of purposes and at reasonable interest rate. Moreover, SHG are the building blocks of organization of the rural poor. Not only does it help women to become financially self-reliant, the regular meetings of the groups provide a platform to discuss and act on variety of social issues such as health, nutrition, domestic violence, etc. ये वुमेन सब बैठी हैं इस तरीके से, कोई एक ये कागज़ वगैरह रखे हैं, कोई इनमें से जैसे ये दो तीन हो गई, तो जिसको भी मान लो इसको इसको ज़रूरत है, तो ये जाके इनसे कहेंगी कि मुझे 1,000 रुपये की ज़रूरत है। ये तीन चार लोग मिलके पैसे जोड़ेंगे और इसको इस महिला को पैसे दे देंगे। अब इस महिला से ये पैसे लेंगे 20% पे, ठीक है, कि जब ये वापस करे तो ये कितने वापस करे, 20% ज़्यादा, ठीक है, 20% ज़्यादा वापस करे तो ये वापस करेगी 1,200 रुपये, ये कितने हैं, 1,000 रुपये। अब इनमें से मान लो चार लोगों ने मिलके 200-200 रुपये जोड़े हैं, पाँच ने 200-200 जोड़े हैं, ठीक है, तो इसमें हम जोड़ देंगे इसको, जो प्रॉफिट होगा 40-40, इतना ही बैठेगा लगभग, जो भी है 40 ही बैठेगा। हाँ, प्रॉफिट 40 बैठेगा, तो 40-40 करके इन सबको इनका जो प्रॉफिट बैठेगा वो होगा 240 रुपये। अब इसमें ही आप लाख जोड़ दो, 1 लाख जोड़ दो, इसके ऊपर डिपेंड है कि इसको कितने पैसे चाहिए। अगर 1 लाख चाहिए, 1 लाख चाहिए, तो फिर उसी हिसाब से 20% के बैच पे। लेकिन जो मनी लेंडर होंगे वो देंगे 30% या 40% या 50%, ऐसे। बैंक जो होगा वो 15%, 7%। लेकिन बैंक पैसे कब देगा, जब इसका जो है, ये जो लेडी है, इस लेडी के क्रेडिट स्कोर, एक क्रेडिट स्कोर होता है जो बैंक देखती है, वो 700 या जितना भी बैंक को चाहिए उसके ऊपर होगा। अगर इसने मान लो पहले बैंक से पैसे लिए हैं और पहले पैसे नहीं दिए, तो फिर बैंक पैसे देने को मना कर देगी। ये है पूरा सिस्टम सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप का, ठीक है। ग्रामीण बैंक ऑफ Bangladesh. Grameen Bank of Bangladesh is one of the biggest success stories in reading the poor to meet their credit needs at reasonable rates. It started in 1970s as a small project. Grameen Bank in 2018 had over 9 million members in about 81,600 villages spread across Bangladesh. Almost all of the borrowers are women and belong the poorest section of the society. These borrowers have proved that not only are poor women reliable borrowers, but that they can start and run a variety of small income generating activities successfully. If credit can be made available to the poor people on terms and conditions that are appropriate and reasonable, these millions of small people with their millions of small pursuits can add up to create the biggest development vendor. ये कौन है, वहाँ के मोहम्मद यूनुस, जो अभी जो लड़ाई झगड़ा हुआ था वहाँ पे जाके पीएम बना दिया गया था इन्हें, ठीक है। द फाउंडर ऑफ ग्रामीण बैंक। Summary. In this chapter, we have looked at the modern forms of money and how they are linked with the banking system. On one side, they are the depositors who keep their money in the banks, and the other side are the borrowers who take loans from these banks. Economic activities require loan or credit. Credit has been so can have a positive impact or in certain situations make the borrower worse off. Credit is available from a variety of sources. These can either formal sources or informal sources. Terms of credit vary sustainably between formal and informal lenders. At present, it is the richer households who receive credit from formal sources, whereas the poor have to depend on the informal sources. It is essential that the total formal sector credit increases so that the dependence on the more expensive informal credit becomes less. Also, the poor should get a much greater share of formal loans from banks, cooperative societies, etc. Both these steps are important for डेवलपमेंट। बैंकिंग सिस्टम कैसे काम करता है? बैंक में एक आदमी है जो 1,000 रुपये जमा कर रहा है, मान के चल रहे हैं मिनिमम। दूसरा आदमी है जो 800 रुपये का लोन ले रहा है। ठीक है, अब ये लोन लिया कितने परसेंट पे मान लेते हैं? 20% पे मान लेते हैं। 20% जब ये वापस कर देगा तो इसमें से इसको जो एफडी वगैरह या फिर इन सब चीज़ों में 5-6% वापस करके 15% का इसको सीधा सीधा प्रॉफिट हो जाएगा बैंक को। ये किसके पास जाएगा? बैंक के पास। इसी तरीके से मेन मेन ये सिस्टम होता है बैंक के चलाने का, बैंक जो प्रॉफिट करते हैं। ठीक है, इसके बाद कुछ है नहीं, चैप्टर खत्म हो जाता है। अब मिलेंगे नेक्स्ट चैप्टर में।